Howdy guys and girls, your Hotone Ampero II Stomp has just arrived and you've broken it out of the box, turned it on, it sounds great, but you want to create your own patch. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. In fact, I'm going to show you 3 different ways to actually set this up. Firstly, with a single amp and effects chain. Second, a dual amp and effects chain. And third, a wet-dry setup so that you have your amp going to one of the outputs and your effects going to another output. Let's get going. Ampero 2 has a lot of different signal routing options. These can be accessed either via the software or the unit by clicking the Templates tab. Under the templates you'll see you have parallel, splitter mixer, AB to Y, Y to AB and serial. This makes it possible to create lots of different types of signal chain, from a simple rig to more complex rigs with dual amps, parallel effects, wet-dry setups and a whole lot more. Alrighty, let's dive right in. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a single amp and effects chain. So over here on the Ampero II Stomp software, you can see that I don't have any effects or amps connected up. I literally just have the signal chain going from the input over to the output here. So if I play my guitar, we don't really get anything, but that's okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to select one of the blocks over here, somewhere over here on the chain. First thing I'm going to add is a cab. Now you're probably wondering why I'm adding a cab before anything else. Well, when I load up the actual guitar amp, I want to hear it through a cab rather than just the fizzy fuzzy sound that's going to come out if I just load up an amplifier. So I'm going to choose this UK82 412. Sounds pretty cool. I'm going to change the microphone over to mix 2, and I'm going to change the position to cap edge, which is where I like the sound to be. I'll also drop the volume a little bit as well so that I don't overwhelm the output. Alrighty, so again, I'm not going to have too much of an effect right now. Still sounds just like a clean guitar. Now I'm going to add in the amplifier. So in the box prior to the cab, I'm going to add in the amplifier. I'm going to go for the drive section and the Marshall 50 plus. Now this is based on a Marshall JMP 50 watt amplifier and the high treble channel. Now I actually have one of these amplifiers. I have a custom built Plexi which is a 50 watt, and I love playing through the high treble channel. Hence I'm picking this one. Let's see how this sounds. Not a whole lot going on right now, but that is very typical of a Marshall with the volume around this level. It is a very clean sound. So first thing I'm going to do is boost this volume, which is actually the gain on a Marshall, all the way up. I'm going to put it 100%. Let's see how it sounds now. There you go, we got some Marshallness going on now. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is boost the output all the way up. Reason I'm doing this is I want that power amp emulation to kick in as well through the software on the Ampero, and it does that actually. You'll hear that I'm going to get a thicker sound. There's going to be more gain coming through as well. Let's see how this sounds. I'm liking that a lot. Okay, I'm gonna just EQ it the way I love to do. Now I actually set my amps up kind of like this. A little bit more presence. Great, I've got my sound coming through really nicely now. Alright, I'm going to go back to the cab now and I'm going to make a couple of changes. So I like to roll off the high end on the cab, so I'm going to put this on about 10,000, which is 10k. So it's going to roll off the really high end, the kind of brittle high end. I can go a little bit further as well. Yeah, I like that. I'm also going to just put this on about 40ish, and what this is going to do, the low cut, is just take away some of the energy from the really low end. I don't want that kind of really boomy. low end coming through. Great, I like that. Like that a lot. That's really making a difference. It's just tightening up the low end a little bit. Okay, I think we need a boost pedal on this. I like to use a boost pedal with the Marshall. We've got plenty of gain going on. I think we could do with a little bit more. What do you think? Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to go over to the drive section here and then go over to the Fawn drive. Now this is basically an emulation of the Klon pedal. Again, I have one of these because I built one a while back, so I'm aware of what the sound is like. It's kind of like a tube screamer but with low end. A little bit different tone, but I love the sound of it, especially with the Marshall. So I'm going to leave it in the standard position right now. Let's see how this sounds. Cool, that is sounding pretty good. I'm going to roll off some of the tone, boost the volume here. Great, that's sounding good. Alright, still getting a little bit of high end through, so I'm going to cut this even further, the high cut on the end. Yeah, I'm liking that. You can also change the tone by changing the position of the microphones as well. So if I go to the near edge, it's going to make it even darker. In fact, I like that tone even more, so I'm going to leave the microphones in that position on the speaker. Alrighty. We need a little bit of ambience now, so I am going to add in a delay and a reverb into this. So I'm just going to use this chain over here, down here. You can put it here or wherever it will fit onto the signal chain as well. But I'm going to fit it down here just so that you can see it a little bit better. So into this block I'm going to go over to the delay settings. And my favorite delay in this is the tape delay S, which is stereo tape delay. So right off the bat, it sounds like this. Okay. So I need to mix it in a little bit more. I find that the sweet spot is around 28. Just there. That's great. Alright, I'm going to lessen the wow and flutter a little bit. And I'm going to switch on the sync. What this will do is this will synchronize it with the patch tempo. So you can change that. So if you're recording in a specific tempo on a song, then you can actually set the tempo to that same tempo, and all of the delays, reverbs, etc. will be timed to that. I actually did that when I did the full track with Ampero 2, and I basically went through all the patches, set the BPM to 180, which was what I was recording to, and all of the delays, the trails, reverbs, etc. sounded really good because they were in time. Alrighty, so let's have a listen now. Great, so I've got a little bit of delay going on now as well. Fantastic. So you can boost the level of the delay more if you want, if you need it more in the mix. And you can do that to taste. Okay, one more block to add in. Let's add some reverb in. Now, I really like this studio reverb. It sounds pretty cool. That sounds really cool. I like the sound of that. So, last thing I'm going to do is just hit this button here, which is the save button, and it's going to bring up this dialog here. I'm just going to call this J Marshall 50 plus, and hit the save button. And that's it, it's saved to that patch. So whenever I want to recall it, I can basically just go back to it. And I have that full signal chain. And you can add in as many effects as the DSP on this will allow you to after that. There you go, that's a very, very simple single chain. I'm now going to show you how to set up a dual amp rig. I like doing this because then I can have two different amps working at the same time. There's two ways to do this. Let me show you the first way. So over here in this patch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move some of these over so that I can put my delay and reverb up here. And one of the really cool things about the Ampero 2 is that you have these nodes, which are input and output nodes. And you can move them to wherever you want. So if I want to move this to, let's say, here, after the drive pedal, then I can. And what it does, it sets up a second signal chain down here. And if I want to reinsert that signal chain somewhere else, I can do that as well. So I'm going to put it here. Now what this has done is basically it's broken the signal up after the drive pedal. The first signal is going to this output, and then I have what looks like a loop here. And within this loop I can actually set up a second amplifier and a second cab. This can be quite processor intensive, so I'm actually going to take out the reverb from here. So I'll just delete that, just give myself a little bit of extra DSP, and then in the second chain, first thing I'm going to add, again, it's going to be the cab. And this time I'm going to go with the UK Vintage 412. And this is another really great sounding cab. And I'll go with mix 2 on the microphones again. This time I'm going to go near center. I'm just going to leave it there. Alright, here I'm going to add in a second amplifier. And the amplifier I'm going to go for is the Soloist 100 lead, which is based on a Soldano Super Lead Overdrive amp. Pretty high gain amp, very, very specific sound. So now I've got my signal coming into the drive pedal, then it splits off in two ways. So this first chain goes into the Marshall, then into the UK 82 cab, and then to the delay. Before the amplifier, the signal splits off and it goes through the second chain now into the Soloist 100 and then the UK Vintage cab. This is going to change how everything sounds. So when I play this now, it's going to sound different because I'm running two different amplifiers. Let's check it out. Great, that is sounding pretty cool. On the second amplifier, I'm going to just up the gain a little bit, up the master, up the mids, and just roll down some of the bass. I just need to drop the volume on the cab a little bit. And it's sounding different from that first chain which I played. Now if I take these out of the actual loop here, I'll just quickly do this, and I'll turn off this input. And you'll hear that the Marshall sounds different. As soon as I put in the second amplifier, so there you go. That's the first way to actually set up a dual amp rig. Now there is another way which I like to use as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this node and drop it down here, and you'll see that it's gone to B here, and I'm going to take this and send it to here as well. Now what this is going to do is this is going to split the signal into two different chains. Now I'm going to set the input to the same as input A. So my guitar signal coming into here is going to go into both of these chains, and then it's going to go to the outputs. Now by default, what it's going to do is it's going to send this chain through output 1 on the Ampero, and this chain through output 2 on the Ampero. So I've changed over the input on Logic to input number 1 and to a stereo input now, rather than the mono input. So essentially I'm getting the Marshall on one side and the Soldano on the other. So when I play now, you'll probably hear that the delay is working in stereo as well. So I can leave the delay just on here. So this gives me more flexibility. I've basically got two different guitar amps playing, and when I record I can basically split them out into a stereo signal, maybe send them to two different tracks, then mix them in how I want into my my track. So that's the second way that you can set up dual rigs as well. Really, really awesome to do. Now Ampero 2 has an FX loop built into it, and I have one of my favorite delay pedals actually plugged into the loop right now, which is the Catalin Bred Bell Epoch. We can actually use this in the chain if we want to as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this block, which is the delay. So now I'm going to have a dry signal. So no delay on the chain now. What I'm going to do though is on this block here, I'm going to go down, and we've got a block called FX Loop, and I'm going to put that in. And what this does is it brings the FX loop into the signal chain on the Ampero, and you can put this wherever you want. So if you wanted to put it at the beginning of the chain, it's not going to sound very good like that because it's a delay pedal. But let's say you have a phaser pedal or something that you want to put there, then you can do that. You can even drop it in between an amp and a cab if you want. You know, if that's what you want to do. You can do all sorts of crazy things. You can basically put it wherever you want. Alrighty, now what it's doing is it's sending the signal out at this point to the FX loop, and then I can use the send and return to actually mix in the signal from my Bell Epoch pedal. And to set this up, what I'm going to do is put the mix on 100% and then just play with the send and return levels to get the correct sound. Then I can use the knobs on the pedal as well in order to get the perfect sound there. So now I'm using my Bell Epoch within my signal chain. Fantastic, really, really cool feature of Ampero 2. Alright, the final thing I'm going to show you is setting up a dual chain, but the first chain is just going to be an amp chain. The second chain is just going to be an effects chain. Now this is really useful if you're going to be setting up a wet-dry setup, or even if you want to record a wet-dry setup. So I'm going to use this dual chain which I set up previously in Ampero, and I'm going to delete the FX loop, and on this second chain I'm going to just disable the in and out at the moment, and I'm going to delete the amplifier and the cab. Over here in Logic I'm going to set this first channel to just my guitar amp. I'm going to name it guitar amp. I'm going to make that a mono. I'm going to set that to input number 1. Now over here on audio 2, I'm going to make sure that it is a stereo input. So I've just changed it over to stereo mode here, and input is number 3 and 4. So I'm going to call this FX. Alrighty, so I'm going to turn on the monitoring on both of these. So at the moment nothing's going to be coming into 3 and 4. you can hear is just my guitar amp and cab, which is over in Ampero. So over in this second patch, I'm going to add in a delay and reverb. Now before I do this, I'm going to show you how the routing works here. So this time what I want to do is to split off the chain but send the effects to a separate output. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this node here, the B node, and I'm going to put it just after the cab. And I'm going to set this to output. Now by default, what it's going to do this time is set the output here on A to output number 1 and 2, and then the output here on B to number 3 and 4. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my delay. So I'm going to go with the tape delay, which I like, and this time I'm going to push the mix all the way up to 100% because I want an entirely wet signal coming out of output number 3 and 4. Now after that I'm going to add in a little bit of reverb as well, and I'm going to leave the mix of this quite low because now I'm going to have to mix in the reverb with the delay, so I don't want it to overwhelm. So when I play now, I've got a lot of effects on there. But here's the cool thing. When I go over to Logic now, the signals are being split off into the guitar amp and the FX separately. So if I actually turn down the volume on FX here, I'm going to just have my amp signal. When I turn it up, it starts coming back in. And then I can mix it in exactly how much I would like it to be in there. And likewise, if I turn down the guitar amp, I'll just hear my effects. Now you obviously can't track like that because there's obvious delay there. But if I put my guitar amp back in and then drop the level of the FX to a level that I like, there you go. I'm going to hit record now, and what this is going to do is it's going to print the guitar amp to track number 1 and the FX to track number 2. Then I can mix them in however I like. Alrighty, so when I have a listen now, I will take these off record and just solo up the guitar amp. And if I solo up just the FX, which is awesome. Now I can basically mix them in, and this is really cool for recording because when you record, unless you have the effects exactly correct, when you print them, there's no way of changing them after the fact. But if you record it this way, then you have them on separate tracks. You have all of the effects just the way you like them through the effects on Ampero 2, but printed to another track. So when I mix this in now, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. The other thing I can do, I can EQ both of these differently if I want to within my DAW. There you go, guys and girls. that's how you create patches within Ampero 2, the software. You can do all of this, like I said, from the Ampero itself as well. Such a fantastic sounding unit, very, very versatile, lots of routing options for recording, for playing live, etc. It's just absolutely fantastic. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll be bringing you some more videos soon. Have a great day. See you later, guys.